it's at this point of the stream where I would try and do my best Jim White impression, but I think for the sake of all of us, I'll hold off on that for now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be with you for a few hours, couple of hours at least, I think, for an extended afternoon live stream as we wait for signings to come through the door at Celtic. It's transfer deadline day. We have hours to go, not even a matter of days or weeks anymore. The deadline is at 11 p.m. tonight. Celtic have till 11 p.m. to make some signings, and as things currently stand, and I know people will pile in throughout the stream and you'll be dipping in and out at different points, as things currently stand, as I refresh all of my tabs frantically, Celtic are yet to confirm any signings on deadline day. Hopefully that will happen through one of these streams, whether that's this afternoon or this evening. So on that note, very quickly, what I will say is I'll be doing 2 separate streams today. I'll be live from now until probably around 4 o'clock-ish, and then we'll take a break. We'll take a dinner time off. We can all go and reset. We can recalibrate. And then later this evening, around maybe 8 o'clock-ish, I will be live for the last few hours, right up until the deadline at 11 p.m. So there'll be a couple of live streams throughout the course of the day, including this one. And hopefully we'll catch some of that live news. I thought that would be the best way forward today, rather than, trying to frantically keep up with the stories, making videos and things changing constantly. The only thing that I would say to that is that, so far, as we're a few hours into the day already, I mean, it's 2 o'clock, or just after 2 o'clock, I should say, and there's not actually a lot of developments. We're pretty stagnant. The biggest development actually comes in regards to Arne Engels, and we'll talk about that, obviously, in a few moments' time. But, we don't have anything confirmed. We don't have any huge stories. We're waiting for that first confirmation. I wouldn't be stunned if Celtic try and play this off to the final whistle to make things more exciting and to, as I said in yesterday's stream, brainwash the support. That's where we are with Celtic right now, and I think they're going to do their best to try and brainwash the support into thinking that this has been a good window. But I'll touch on that in a moment. Welcome in, everybody. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. This will be a bit more chilled and laid back than usual. I'll be taking lots of questions throughout the next couple of hours, so, the chat's flying already, and I'll try and get to as many points as I can. Thank you to all the channel members that I can see in there. Kieran, Jack, Lupus, Aidan, Noah, Blake. Good to see us, good to see some of the regular subscribers as well. Dennis, Mickey Boy, Glasgow Rebel, Plunge. So, we're going to have lots to go over, and we'll start with the Arne Engels situation in a moment. Just touching on what I was saying a moment ago, and what I truly believe Celtic are trying to do here, and I might get proven wrong on this, because, it could be, for all I know, in the next 5 minutes, Celtic could announce their first signing of the window. I think they're going to try and give us a Jota, Giacomakis, Cameron, Carter-Vickers type scenario, where we have a photo of all the signings together holding their shirt, and we announce them all at the one time, rather than doing it, scattered across the day. And I think they're going to do that from a marketing perspective to try and make this seem more exciting than what it's actually been. I can't help but reiterate this. Don't let this window brainwash you into thinking it's been a success. The fact that it is now the 2nd of February, deadline day, and Celtic haven't spent a single penny in the window is nothing short of humiliation. It's embarrassment of the highest order. This has been a total embarrassment of a window. And even if Junior Adamu and Joel Mavuka and potentially another centre half come in over the next few hours before the deadline, and even if they kick on to deliver us a league title and a Europa League charge, don't forget how disastrous a window this has been and how inept the board of directors at Celtic Football Club have acted throughout. This has been a total disaster. It's been abhorrent. I have never seen, and tomorrow I'll do the kind of full breakdown and go over, both windows and sort of summarise everything, the money spent, the money brought in, the total goals and assists of every signing we've made. I'll do a total recap of things tomorrow, and I think that's where we'll be able to take a wider perspective on things and look at how bad it's actually been. But you know, I knew this would be bad, but I didn't think it would be this bad. This is just terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I'm just at a wit's end. I'm glad that this is the end. I'm glad that this is the end of the window. I'm glad that we have arrived at February 2nd and we don't need to talk about transfers again between now and the end of May. Do I think that this squad is good enough to win a league title right now? Perversely, yes, but not in a confident manner. I think that this will be Celtic's messiest and closest league title win in the last decade if we manage to do it. Do I think this Celtic squad is good enough to go on a run in the Europa League? No, I don't. Do I think this Celtic squad is good enough to convincingly win a double? No. If we do anything this year, it will be down to the genius of Martin O'Neill, and it won't be done as convincingly as we once would have dreamed. The Wilfred Nancy saga set us back. It's as simple as that. And the complete inability to act seriously at the very top of the club has held us back significantly. Even more so than what those few games under Wilfred Nancy done. Don't get me wrong, those few games under Wilfred Nancy were bad, and they've really harmed where we are right now as a football club and the positioning we find ourselves in. But I feel like it pales in comparison compared to the utter mess that the Celtic board have dragged us through. But we've got, hours to talk about that. As Alistair says, I'm tired of the stress. Thank you to Ranny's Rovers for being a member of the channel for the last 7 months. I appreciate that, mate. He said, just been monitoring Just Eat the past 15 minutes. Might make a bid for a Zinger box meal. Do you know what? Make sure that you're monitoring hard, evaluating all of your options, and considering every element of that. Don't go in too heavy now. Don't bid too much money. Right, let's go over the latest, shall we? It's deadline day, as I said. We'll have an afternoon stream. Stream will be back in the evening. Happy birthday to Thomas Law, by the way, in the chat. Shout out to you. I will get to the chat as much as I possibly can. But happy birthday, brother. I hope you're well. There seems to be an update right now in the past 5 minutes of Aureli Amenda of Frankfurt, and it's not sounding too good. He was a defender that we were linked with earlier in the window, and as of last night, I said that I wanted him to be someone we looked at today if we were still looking for a centre-half. But he's likely to stay at Frankfurt. There is news that's came out in the past 5 minutes surrounding that. After being linked in the middle of the month with a potential loan move to Celtic. Of course, he moved from Young Boys to Frankfurt a couple of years ago for a fee of around £8 million. And he wanted to get some game time to try and get a place at the World Cup this summer for the Swiss national team, I believe. Amenda has played every minute of the last 3 Frankfurt games, and because there is a new manager, I believe, at Frankfurt, it looks as though he's unlikely to leave Frankfurt. So I think they went under a change. A new manager, Albert Riera, a name you might remember from back at Liverpool in the day. Amenda is unlikely to leave Frankfurt today, especially to Celtic with other clubs in the race. Now, of course, we mentioned this earlier at the time when this was happening, that other clubs, including clubs in Germany, Mainz were interested, Lorient in France, Torino, Nice and Valencia in Spain as well, were all clubs that were interested in a move. It doesn't look as though that Amenda will be still an option for Celtic. There was another centre-half that we were kind of mentioned with today that kind of came and went under the radar very, very quickly, that I'll come to in a moment. But it doesn't look likely to be Amenda. It also doesn't look likely to be Jamie Lawrence, that was also in the Bundesliga and linked with Celtic earlier in the window. You could probably cross that name off your list right now, which is a bit of a disappointment considering that he's somebody that I would have liked, but you can't really do much about it if he's now playing football at Frankfurt. I mean, I've blamed Celtic for a lot of things in this window, and maybe if this is something that you acted on 3 weeks ago, we could have been in there and we could have done something, but as of this point in time, Celtic can't do much about him being now a Frankfurt regular in that team. So it doesn't look as though he will be the centre-half. It also doesn't look as though Jamie Lawrence will be the centre-half either. And the other centre-half that we were mentioning with today, and we know this, we know that the Celtic board are still looking for a defender. That was clarified to us last night. Sky reported that Celtic are still wanting another centre-half in this window. One of the names that popped up today, and we'll keep an eye on this throughout a couple of streams tonight, but it doesn't look as though it will happen. Tyler Fredrickson of Manchester United was mentioned earlier today by Simon Stone of the BBC. He reported this earlier, that Tyler Fredrickson will be staying at Manchester United due to an ill-timed injury. And there was interest apparently from Celtic, who were in touch with Manchester United about Tyler Fredrickson. Now, of course, we all know that I have a little bit of a liking for Manchester United. Tyler Fredrickson last year was Manchester United's Reserve Player of the Year and has been highly spoke of in that youth set up at Manchester United. Broke through into the first team a couple of times this year via the bench, and I think he's been subbed on a couple of times. He's now injured. He won't be coming to Celtic, but apparently we were in touch, so it does look as though Celtic are genuinely looking at trying to bring in a defender. Whether all of our options are now going to be off the table, off the cards, and we're going to struggle and maybe we just leave it, that remains to be seen. Huddersfield and Aberdeen were also two clubs that were apparently looking at Tyler Fredrickson in this window, but Celtic were reportedly in touch. So, look, that's a bit of a nothing story now, and it's not as if we should get too bogged down about Tyler Fredrickson at all, but considering that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. But it does pretty much confirm to me that Celtic are definitely looking at a centre-half, or at least a defender of some form in this window. So, no Tyler Fredrickson, by the sounds of it, no Aurier Amenda of Frankfurt, or Jamie Lawrence either. We only have, what is it, I think 8 hours to go of the window. Am I right in saying 8 hours? Yeah, we 9 hours maybe, actually. Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, and I'm sure that Celtic have left it. Do you know what I think is, more what we should be talking about is what's happening backstage at Celtic right now. I say backstage like it's the fucking wrestling, but they must be scrambling. Do they understand the rip-roaring arse of it that they've made? Why have they deliberately left it to this point? We're still waiting on the news of these two medicals, by the way, which obviously there's no guarantee have been passed for both Mavuka and Junior Adamu. But surely, over these last couple of days, they have thought to themselves, why have we done this? And that's what I don't get. Why do we back ourselves into the corner of panic? This is the answers that we didn't get at the AGM because they decided to cancel it early. Anyway, before I come on to the chat and before we kind of spectate everything, we should go over the other stories that have been floating around today. Arne Engels, Celtic did reject a second offer, and I do think that it will probably be the last offer that we receive for Arne Engels. This is old news as of now. This was at 7 o'clock this morning, by the way, so it's been a long time since this story broke, and I'm sure we've all heard it by now, but Celtic did reject a second and improved offer from Nottingham Forest for Arne Engels. That was an offer that stood around £17.3 million, €20 million, to be precise. Celtic rejected that and reiterated the point that the midfielder is not for sale. I'm not going to get dragged back into it. It's going to happen again. I know that we're going to revisit the same conversation as last night. I'm just going to be concise here. I don't think Celtic were in a position to sell. I understand a lot of people would have liked to have taken that 20 million quid or 17 million quid and don't think that he's worth that and should have chewed the hand off for it. Celtic aren't in a position we could do that right now. The squad isn't good enough. We're not in a good position for Europe. We don't have a lot of leeway for bringing in new players for Europe. You can only add a certain amount of players to your squad. Celtic weren't in a position to accept this. And I get it, some people aren't big fans of Arne Engels, but a lot of people are. He's a very, split player, isn't he? Just half the support love him, half the support seem to hate him. But the bid was rejected, and that's that. The only other thing I can say, to keep it concise, people go, think of what we could have done with that £17 million. What would you have expected Celtic to do with £17 million in less than 24 hours when they couldn't do anything with £70 million over the space of 2 transfer windows? It's just a nonsense way to look at it. And I don't mean to shit over anybody that has that opinion, because it's a fair opinion to have to a certain extent. But what basis do we have to suggest that Celtic have a signing lined up that would equal or better the quality of Arne Engels in less than 24 hours when they've had 2 transfer windows to have 70 million in the bank and use it, and we've not? This 17 million would have done nothing today for Celtic. Would have done nothing at all. And even if we did go out and spend it, and of course say we did go out and sign somebody, what if they were shit? We gave ourselves no contingency plan. We didn't set ourselves up. The best case scenario for Celtic with this today would have been that Celtic had a plethora of attacking midfielders, a plethora of defensive midfielders, just central midfielders altogether, that we could have afforded to let him go and take that money. Sadly, we don't. Our depth is thin. The only other three midfielders we have that are good enough are Rio Hatate, and I think that's even a stretch at this moment in time. Rio Hatate, Callum McGregor, and Benjamin Nygren. Paolo Bernardo, Luke McCowan, just not good enough. Just not good enough. So we weren't in a position to accept this bid, as much as you might have wanted to, and I think you really need to wrap your head around that. We rejected 14 million initially, then 17 million, and it seems to be that Nottingham Forest have moved on. Now, I was listening to Sky Sports News earlier whilst I was having my lunch. They moved on to Hayden Hackney of Middlesbrough, who also told Nottingham Forest to piss off and have said he's not for sale in this window. I would say steady on. I don't think it's done as of yet. I feel like Nottingham Forest might try one more time. There was an update just before I went live about the position of Arne Engels and reiterating the point that he's not for sale. He is not for sale, just to clarify that. Martin O'Neill was pretty clear on it. But if they can't get Hayden Hackney, they may come back in for Engels one more time. I don't see that happening though. I think that we'll keep Engels this window. Just, if they come in with one more bid though of £20 million, hold the fort. Hold the fort right now. Thank you to the donations. Glasgow Celtic 8867 saying Lawwell and Desmond could play centre back. Centre back sounds. See, I enjoyed that. Lawwell and Desmond could play CB. CB stands for cheap bastards, by the way. Love it. That's comment of the day. Thank you. Thank you for the donation and thank you for the laugh. I appreciate that. So Arne Engels, hold the fort. As of now, bids have been rejected. If Nottingham Forest can't get anybody that they want, I think they could maybe come back in with another bid, but we aren't in a position to sell. We're just not in a position to sell, and that's that. And look, I get it. A lot of people have a personal thing about Engels. They don't think he's good enough. I'll reiterate one more time. I don't think he showed £11 million worth of developments at signing for Celtic. I really don't. And I think that £17 million is the kind of money that I would choose. If it was another time, I would say yes, take that money. But it's deadline day, and we have no other options. It's not about personal opinions on players anymore. It's about practicality and just logic. It's all about logic. And for what it's worth, I actually do like Engels. I think he's a good player. I just think he's too inconsistent. And that's the annoying thing about him. But we'll probably talk about Engels a lot more in this stream. We are refreshing, hoping that some big stories break. If you're looking, and I think, we're still waiting for the big news on Adamu and Mavuka as well. Of course, we're waiting for the confirmation of them signing for Celtic. They aren't there yet. Saying a lot to talk about certain individuals in the chat. I've already seen the names of Mawanise thrown around. We'll talk about it in a moment. I see the name of David Watson as well. Let me do some quick fire stories around the league for you, in case you're wondering what is going on, and stories that are in relation to Celtic as well. I don't know if you remember that we were linked with Nielsen Angelo earlier in the window. He was a winger that we were linked with, I believe, of Ecuadorian nationality. I think it was Ecuadorian. Apparently he's off to Sunderland, by the way. A £15 million bid has been accepted there, and I think he's off to Sunderland. He was somebody that we were linked with earlier in the window. We were never going to spend £15 million on a winger anyway, so that one probably has no real bearing on us, but he seems to be off there. A couple of other big stories though. David Watson, whose name has been popping up the chat a few times. Kilmarnock have knocked back a bid for David Watson today as of the last couple of hours. Apparently Bolton Wanderers have bidded £500,000 for David Watson. That was thrown out. They've rejected it. He is in the final 6 months of his contract, so I think Kilmarnock are in a position where if there was money, on the table that enters the 7-figure range, I think they would probably accept it, to be honest. But they've rejected £500,000 from Kelly right now. We did hear earlier in the season that Celtic did have a reported interest in David Watson, but there's been no bid. There's been no suggestion that Celtic are serious in acting on that. So, will this Bolton Wanderers £500,000 bid do anything to make Celtic go in and go for him? I don't know. I don't know. Is the honest answer. I would be surprised if Celtic go for David Watson. The question of should or shouldn't is a different thing. But yeah, £500,000 bid there. And the other big story for today I want to cover before we go into questions and before we just go into general transfer watch and sit here spectating Twitter for the next couple of hours. This was one that blew up this morning, and I think everybody had the same reaction to it. By the way, a huge thank you to Jack Strang in the chat. Everybody give a mad thank you to Jack. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Gifting 5 channel membership. Congrats to those who've picked up the 5 memberships. Brendan, Nordselts, Mr. Squeak, AR, and Joe. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that, mate. You're an absolute legend. Thank you for growing the community in the 118 and the Thunder Clubs. This was one that obviously blew up this morning. It's kind of not maybe worth as much conversation now, considering what's came out since. We all know the name Sacha Tavolieri, Belgian journalist who has broke many a Celtic transfer story over the last few years. He's been very influential in breaking news to do with especially Michel-Ange Balikwisha, who of course was based in Belgium, plus another couple of players who we've been linked with over the last couple of years. Sacha Tavolieri tweeted this morning that Anderlecht had set their sights on Tawanda Maswanisi of Motherwell, and everybody was losing their marbles when they saw that apparently Motherwell were asking for €3 million. Now, Sacha Tavolieri is a pretty reliable journalist, but it seems like he has been off the mark with this one. Anderlecht's still interested, but this whole Motherwell asking for €3 million seems to be a lot of nonsense. So everybody this morning was going, oh, you know, fucking hell, how they won't want 3 million, how are we not spending 3 million? We're spending 3 million on somebody that looks worse than Maswanisi. No, he's not available for £3 million. Motherwell have reiterated the point as recent as 27 minutes ago via Sky Sports that Maswanisi is not for sale, despite interest from Europe on deadline day. The Scottish Premiership's top scorer has 13 goals, of course. There was reported interest from Anderlecht, but Jens Bertel Asko has reiterated the point. He is not for sale. So he is not available for €3 million, despite reports this morning in Belgium. Anderlecht still reportedly interested, and I mean, don't say no to the possibility of a bid. It's something that I think Celtic should follow quite closely, but we seem to be signing our winger. I can't quite wrap my head around this, I'm not going to lie. And look, I'm not saying that Maswanisi is this almighty, holy gospel, must-sign player. Like, he's a good player. He's a good player. But he certainly looks better than the boy Mavuka. And that's what I don't get. So we're going out and spending £3 million on Mavuka, apparently. I would suggest Celtic should be paying 1, 2, maybe even £3 million more than that to go and get the top scorer in the Scottish Premiership, who looks like a great player. I don't think Motherwell in a position where they would knock back a fee of around 5 to 6, £7 million. And Celtic can afford that. But hey, listen, there's no point in getting too bogged down about it. I see Aaron in the chat saying generally isn't that good. I think that would be nonsense to suggest. I think he is good. I don't think he's a world beater, but he's good. He's obviously good. If he's the top scorer in the league and he's firing on all cylinders, I mean, listen. This is it for me, right? This is it for me. We've put ourselves into a position where Maswanisi, to the Celtic fans, would be the best option because we've offered nothing else on the table. That's why he's been seen as this figure as a must go and get. But I certainly would rather the guy with 13 goals at Motherwell this season, Motherwell who are well within their rights to challenge for the top 3, by the way. I would rather the guy that's got 13 goals at Motherwell than the boy Mavuka who's got 0 goals across all competitions this year. And 3 goals in his last 2 years of competitive football. So that's where the measuring stick is. And we can't help that. Celtic fans can't help that. You know, if the measuring stick was Maswanisi and somebody else who looked wildly better, I'm sure we would all be saying, let's go and get someone else. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have much better options. And this is what we need to kind of settle for, the conversations that we have to settle for. But it is what it is. Is it going to be a typical case of Celtic passing up on a player in the league that's in form? Maybe. I don't know. I've always been very cautious of saying, you know, let's just jump for the best performing players in the league. It's going to be another one that kind of splits opinion. But look, if I just come back very quickly to the winger who we are reportedly set to sign for a fee of around £3 million. Maswanisi has as many goals in the Scottish Premiership this season, or sorry, I should say 1 less. Maswanisi has 1 less goal this season in the league alone. So this is without cups, by the way. Maswanisi has 1 less goal alone than what this lad has in his entire career from the same position on the park. 183 games, 14 goals. Maswinesi has 13 in the Scottish Premiership alone this season. So, I can get it that he's not this godlike figure or this must sign, but he's certainly a lot better. I would pay double the amount that we're paying for this Mavuka to go and get Maswinesi. Because these stats are horrendous. Like, these are absolutely shocking. There's just his career stats there, just to reiterate that point. Across Bodo, Lorient, and Young Boys. Didn't last very long at Young Boys, actually. But hey, we'll come back on to Mavuka at some point in the stream. It just feels like such a no-brainer to go for a lad that's the top scorer in the league right now, rather than somebody that has 14 goals in 183 bloody games. But hey, listen, I'm just a YouTuber. I'm not a scout, I suppose. So that's all the latest right now. As I said, I'm frantically refreshing to see if there's any big news in regards to Celtic coming out as we speak. We don't have anything of significance since I've started streaming. Hearts and talks of Spurs and Arsenal over a deal for James Wilson, by the way. I know a lot of people wanted Celtic to maybe explore the possibility of James Wilson. You can safely say goodbye to that. Not that there was anything to suggest that we're going to go in that direction anyway, but I think you can if you had that dream or aspiration, I think you can put it to the side for the time being. So, anyway, we'll keep an eye. I'll be refreshing, and you guys can notify me if anything happens. We are expecting announcements in regards to Adamu and Mavuka at some point over the day, and we're still waiting for something to come out about a defender. Martin O'Neill saying that he expects a couple to come through the door, and I think that, you know, through the media, it sounds like we should be expecting maybe 3 players to come through the door today. Whether or not we actually get that done is another story, but it's been a disaster of a window, and I'm just, yeah, I can't wait for it to be over. Right. Let's go, shall we, with you guys running the chat. It's all about you now. I'll be live, as I said, for this afternoon stream. We'll probably stay live to roughly around 4 o'clock, and then I'll be back live this evening. I'll be back live this evening to do the closing of the window and see if any last minute deals go through. So yeah, you dominate. I'll be getting the new streaming software soon as well, so I can start bringing comments back up on screen and super chats up on screen and stuff like that. That's currently in the process of getting organised and set up. Big thank you to Rayan for the donation, by the way. He starts us off this afternoon in the Q&A, saying that with $4.99, by the way, saying not getting a centre back would be catastrophic, and I can see it happening. Welsh and Murray as backups could be a title killer. I agree with that. I do. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that we are very, very thin. Considering Cameron Carter-Vickers is out for the season, we're so thin in the ground when it comes to the centre-half situation. We are an Austin Trusty or Liam Scales injury away from an absolute disaster. Both Welsh and Murray aren't good enough to be playing for Celtic week in, week out. They're not. And we've actually kind of stagnated Stephen Welsh's career again, which is another conversation in itself. But I agree. I think that we need to get a centre-half in. I think it should be a priority tonight. Even I read, what happens if, Trusty gets a red card the week before a derby game, or Scales, pulls up 5 minutes into a derby game. You know what? I know these are if buts and maybes, but we cannot be operating like that. We can't be. We're very thin on the ground, and it just makes me wonder about the whole Jemai Simpson-Fusey situation, because now he's over in the Bundesliga playing. I think he was in the team of the week or something after his first game. Makes me wonder what happened there with him, if it was an attitude problem or whatever. That's in the past. No point getting drawn into all that. But Celtic need to be making a defender a priority in this window. And there's got to be some available. There's got to be some. And do you know what the worst part is? There has to be some available that Celtic could realistically just pay a transfer fee for. But we don't want to spend money. Because we're cheap. Because we're run by cowards and crooks and criminals. But I 100% agree. Andrew asking a question about a goalie. There will not be a goalie coming through the door at Celtic today. And I know a lot of people will be bringing the point up about Kasper Schmeichel and all the rest of it. No goalkeepers in the line of sight for Celtic. And if you want my blunt reply to that and my honest assessment of it, we have a lot more to worry about than a goalkeeper right now. And I get it, Schmeichel isn't perfect. He's not. He's had some blunders. But we've got a lot more to fucking worry about than a goalkeeper at the minute. So, aye. If I complain about the stats, Mark, it's probably because the stats aren't that good. And I think that's a valid complaint to have. I'm fed up of Celtic having to settle for shite. That's what my problem is. Like, we're a big club, and we don't act like it. I just want us to try and, set our sights a wee bit better and stretch the standards that we have. Simple as that. I think, just to come back to Engels, I see a lot of chat about Engels, and we're probably going to talk a lot about him between the two streams that we do tonight and today. People saying he's even worth £5 million or whatever. Let's not be ridiculous about things. Some people have a real prejudice against Arne Engels for some reason. He's not that bad. He's not that good either. Like, as I said, his problem is inconsistency. But he's a young 22-year-old, very talented footballer that has showed that. He's also showed the shite as well. But I think we have this... A lot of people have this exaggeration around Engels. Oh, he's not worth £5 million. Of course he's worth £5 million. Of course he is. But the Engels stuff will probably pop up a few times. I'm keeping an eye on what's happening around the whole country with transfers, just to see if any players come up that would be suitable for Celtic, maybe in the Championship or anything like that. Funny to see Ivan Toney has rejected Juventus and 2 Premier League clubs because he's happy and settled in Al Ahly, but it's crazy to think that he was this is, once again, let's go back to the bootlickers for a moment. Ivan Toney, somebody who was at Celtic Park a few years ago, and we just couldn't be arsed spending the money, goes on to have a fantastic career down south, gets a big move to Saudi Arabia, and now is rejected moves for Juventus and 2 Premier League clubs. But guess what? We didn't want to spend the money on him. We're watching history repeat itself with so many players. Thank you to Mickey Boy for the £5. I appreciate that, brother, saying, should we be signing anyone else permanently before we have a permanent manager? Unless that manager is going to be Knutson and we sign Ho and JP Hug. Look, I understand that. Right, I understand it to a certain extent, and thank you for the donation, Mickey. But this is, I've said this point before, so apologies to anybody who's heard me say it probably a number of times. I don't get this notion of why shouldn't we sign players because we've not got a permanent manager. We still have a post to advertise at Celtic, and with the mess that we're in right now, it's not a very attractive position. Well, it's still an attractive position. We're still Celtic at the end of the day, right? How are you doing, Quinny? It's an attractive job. Of course it is. It's Celtic. But in the last 12 months alone, we have had 2 disastrous transfer windows, a refusal to spend any money, a manager resign because of the relationship with the higher-ups, fans going on protest and civil war with the Celtic board, the majority shareholder of the club releasing a character assassination on one of the most successful managers in the club's modern history. We've been a soap opera this past 12 months. This has been a soap opera. It's been a mess. Our football club is a reality show. It's a joke. We would be breaking views on MTV, breaking records on MTV for the shit show. If Amazon were filming us right now for one of these all or nothings or whatever they call them, they would be having a ball with the mess that has been Celtic Football Club. So we're not as attractive as we once were. We're not as attractive as we were even, 24 months ago. But managers still want to inherit good squads. And I think that any manager, no matter who it is, right, would rather inherit a decent Celtic squad than the current crop of players that they have right now, which are quite frankly not good enough. So why shouldn't we? It doesn't matter if the manager's interim. Doesn't matter if Martin O'Neill's only here at the end of the season. Somebody's got to inherit this team. And can I remind people that managers get sacked constantly in the modern game? And I mean constantly. Like, the time frame for managers lasting at football clubs is probably shorter than it's ever been. I mean, Wilfred Nancy lasted 33 fucking days as Celtic manager. And we see, managers come and go all the time and inherit different squads. But you need to inherit a good squad. And I think that any manager coming in would rather inherit improvements and work with the group that they could have rather than the current group right now. So that's my opinion on that. I don't think it should matter. Now, to answer your question again, in a different vein, Mickey, and then from a different perspective, maybe you flip that to say that that's just the Celtic board and why they're doing that. Maybe this is why we're not spending money. Maybe that is their excuse. But it's not good enough. It doesn't wash with me as an excuse. It's pathetic, it's cheap, and it's lazy. Simple as that for me. So thank you for the donation. Your question is certainly valid, but in my opinion, if I was a manager and I was wanting the Celtic job, I would be looking from afar and going, I want them to improve that team before I take it, because I'm currently not convinced about the squad that I'm inheriting. Still waiting on any news to break as we stay live on this first stream. I do feel like the oh, there's my microphone away. Great. That's fantastic. Can everybody hear me alright? My microphone's just fell off. Great. That's just brilliant. Magic. Am I going to have to sit like this for the rest of the stream until I can sort this? Magic. The beauty of these longer form live streams, eh? Right, hold on. I think I can fix this. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Right, and then... Do I need to spin this round? Can I just bring that down like that? No, I can't do that. This is great. Great entertainment, this. Great entertainment. Talk about the quality of live streams over in Ryan 118. They're magic, always. So I need to spin this round. Like an update. Oh my god. Right, do you know what? Oh, there it's fully away. Oh, there's everything is crashing. Live on stream. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Right, give me a moment. Give me a moment. I'm going to put up the back in a moment message, and I'm going to try and put this microphone back on. Right, I think that's me. God almighty. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check, are we all good? Are we all good? It's a bit stiffer. That's not a... Yep, let's just pretend I never said that. Everybody hear me? Oh, that's the wrong one. Everybody hear me okay? I'm buying a stream deck today, so everything should be a bit more fluid. We're upgrading the streaming game. We're upgrading it. I've got a piece of new equipment, a new toy coming today, so that I can, move things more fluidly. If anybody knows what a stream deck is, it's about time. It's took me long enough. Anyway, I'm back. I cannot remember what we're in the middle of talking about, but let's just keep the chat flowing. As I said, we're keeping an eye out for anything. Thank you, everybody, for... the Celtic board are trying to silence me. I'm telling you, that's what it is. Desmond's heard everything I've been saying about him recently, and they've sabotaged the microphone. They've sabotaged the microphone. I'm convinced I'm being silenced. Waiting for anything to break about Celtic, but it seems like it's going to be a bit of a stagnant afternoon. We'll be here through all of it anyway. Keep your questions coming in, and we'll try and get back on track after that technical mishap. Mickey Boy saying it is an attractive job, but if we sign players like Mavuka for 3 million and he's the usual standard, then the new manager has to get rid of him and we'll have 3 million less to spend. Well, I totally understand it. I get it, and people will have different perspectives on it. I just would rather see Celtic go and try and sign quality players for a good bit of money and and go from there. But, you know, I get that it's a concern. I understand that it's a concern. I just want us to be good again. Simple as that. You know? Oh, Quinny, you getting one as well, brother? Love that. Mine's out for delivery, I think. I ordered it last night in preparation for this new streaming graphic package thing that we're getting. If we sign permanent players, the new manager comes in and doesn't like said players, they will lose little to no value in 6 months, which is also another point. I mean, unless they're terrible, you know. But even this whole thing about if they don't like the player, right? I feel like, how often do we see it in football where a manager comes in and then gets rid of a player who's just signed? Like, unless I'm missing some very obvious infinite examples, I feel like it doesn't happen all that much. Like, I feel like when a manager comes in and they start getting their own players in that they like, the newer ones it's kind of the older dead wood that they start to move on, not so much the newer guys that are maybe just settled in or maybe just there. So once again, there's different ways and perspectives to look at it. Hello Adam, how are you doing? Good to see you, mate. I appreciate you being here. Who's going to win the league? Celtic, hopefully. Don't count your head. Don't get too thingy about it. Mr. C saying, and this might be a controversial opinion to some, saying Casper's blunders don't bother me. His conditioning has pissed me off since the day he got here. Totally unacceptable and professional. He's taken tons of cash for it, but can't be arsed on fitness. The blunders don't bother you. That's controversial. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. As I said, he's probably still getting down to some of the shots from Parkhead yesterday. So yeah, I can understand that. I think that's frustrated a lot of people. I think it was all a bit of a laugh and a joke when we were winning, but now that we're not winning, it's really put into perspective the sort of... I mean, you look at him besides Craig Gordon, and Craig Gordon has kept himself in tremendous condition, looked after himself, even through a leg break, and Kasper Schmeichel hasn't really done that. Nepo baby Conrad Logan, that could be a phrase that we coin here. It's a very good summary of things. The only way we can sign big players is if this board get to and started on Sunday with a full stadium singing stand up if you hate the board. I liked that on Sunday. I enjoyed that and I hope to see more of it. What time does our window shut? 11 p.m. in Scotland. In England it shuts at 7 p.m. Up here it shuts at 11. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. The transfer deadline is at 11 p.m. We're waiting for any news to break in regards to incomings or even outgoings. Of course, there's still chat of maybe sending Stephen Welsh back to Motherwell. Unless we sign a centre-half, I doubt that'll happen. And then, you know, you have to go the rest of the season with, you know, Celtic having Stephen Welsh and Dane Murray as backups, which we've already covered, which would just be an absolute disaster. Thank you to Bailey, channel member, saying we should never be in the situation where managers don't like players. We should have modern ways of signing players where they're signed on data and role, and we should pick a manager that way. Well, we see the way that it's... We spoke about this last night in the stream, so I'll keep it brief. We see what's happening at Hearts. We've seen what's happened in England with similar clubs in positions like Brighton, Bournemouth, using data and analytical-driven approaches. I mean, you don't need to like it. You don't need to love it. You know, I'm not a lover of statistics and data and analytics and all that. You know, I just enjoy my football and I watch it with my eyes. But they have their place in the game and they're certainly what drive modern football clubs forward. And this is what I mean. Like, coaches, at the end of the day, in this modern game, are meant to be more about the training, are meant to be more about the tactics rather than the transfers and the recruitment. And Celtic have just been stuck in the kind of dark ages for the last 25 years, it feels like. So we're in that situation right now where I think it's just we're wandering through Siberia not knowing which way to turn, because we're so disorganised as a football club. And I mean, us as fans, we can only suggest so much because we're not qualified to make these calls or decisions. I'm not qualified to make these calls or decisions. I can offer my opinion, but you know, the club's a mess, so the fans are quite not going to exactly be best placed to make these decisions, or at least, you know, kind of chirp in on these decisions. What's the script of the Spanish window finishing at 10:59 p.m? Why did they try and be difficult? I did not know that. That is wild. I did not know that. Nordcell said stats are facts. Why would anyone not like stats? If a player has good stats, chances are they're a good player. Yeah, I mean, majority of the time it's right, but I've also seen many a good player because of, you know, stuff that does not bother me. You know, the expected goals, I prefer actual goals, all that kind of jazz. But as I said, I'm not like an absolute hater. I can fully acknowledge that they're very important in the modern game across every sport. It's not just a football thing now. I mean, if anybody's seen Moneyball, for goodness sake, I mean, that film spells it out perfectly. If you've not seen it, great movie, go and watch it. I just, you know, I'm not going to spend my time getting dragged into it all, is basically what I'm saying. I watch it football with my eyes. So that's always been my opinion of it. There's old school and there's new school, and I'm an old soul at heart, you know. DD saying, keep Engels, we won't replace him anyway. He has a good rest of the season, maybe makes the World Cup Belgian squad, the price goes up. At worst we sell him for £15 million. My opinion with it, I mean, I've made my opinion clear with Engels. I want him to stay, he needs to stay. We're not in a position where we can just let him go anyway, so I'm not going to get dragged into that for a moment. But the other thing, I see people going, oh, we're missing out on this opportunity. If we're getting bids like this now, there's nothing to suggest that we won't get them in the summer again. Like, he's signed a long contract. He's still so young. Like, I don't think we're exactly missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here to offload Engels. If you're desperate for Engels to go, keep yourself tied down for a moment. Just calm down. We're not seeing any of that money. It's not gone into our pockets, first and foremost. But, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. These bids will come back again, especially if he makes that World Cup squad, as mentioned. I mean, granted, depends how much he plays at the World Cup and, if he's any good there. But these things will come. And it's not a once-in-a-lifetime. It's not like pass up on it now and you're never going to see it again. Celtic will have their chance to make profit on Arne Engels again. It's clear that other teams rate him. Some people might wonder why, but it's clear. RB Leipzig, Nottingham Forest, two big clubs. Nottingham Forest, 2-time European Cup winners. Not having a great season, but could win the Europa League this year. RB Leipzig, one of the biggest clubs in Germany, controversially. Clubs clearly rate him. This isn't going to be the only time. There you go. Negred's stats would make you think that he's Madrid bound. Exactly. So, aye. Non-football, any suggestions where to watch the Super Bowl in town? Not sure where to look. I would usually go to Arc. I've got the Square Go next week I'm commentating. I'm not sure if I'm going to go out and watch it or just come home and watch it here, but usually I would head to Arc. Might be fully booked already though. That's where I would normally go. Engels has the physical attributes for the big leagues to look for. They're a premium. Everything else can be coached. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Leipzig are tiny, but we cannot deny the fact that in the modern game, Leipzig are a big club. They're a club with a lot of money and people want to go there. And I agree with you as an avid German football fan. Fuck Leipzig, but they are a big club in the context of the modern game. Nelson Angelo going to Sunderland for around 17.25 million from Anderlecht. We were interested in him in the summer, but instead we signed Balikwisha. Yet we touched on that earlier, and I think there was still even interest heading into this January window, but we can certainly rule ourselves out of that now for that price. Ryan, can you put up a poll? Do you know what? That's a great idea. Why don't I put up a poll? I want to see everybody's opinion. This is, once again, when I get this new streaming software, there'll be a lot more engaging things that we can do. I'll show it off to the channel members when I start setting it up. We can do a channels member stream and you can see what we can do before I debut it publicly. Let me jump on very quickly and do it. Quinny, you're Leipzig, man. That's weird. I don't like that. Let me start a poll. Let me see everybody's opinion. Engage. Start a poll. Right. Let's see. Let's go. Let's put the question as: would you have taken the 17 mil for Engels? Right. I need to move my keyboard as well, so it's central, and I don't need to keep going like this. Yes or no? Right. We have 1,400 live viewers as things currently stand. So there's the poll. I want as many people answering it as possible, and I want to see what the results are. So, just on that topic of Engels, yes, I will be live tonight. Sean will be live for a second stream for the last few hours of the window. Funny, Ryan. Right, let's see. I'm going to click no. Oh, I can't do it on this. I need to do it in the software. I'm going to click no. So far, a resounding amount of no's in comparison to yes. A resounding amount. Like, it's not even fucking close. Which I actually did expect. I think that there is a very, and this isn't, the Ken? Oh god, I can't spell. I need to move my keyboard. It's meant to say taken, right? Meant to say taken. This is the thing with the Engels situation, and this isn't me. I'm not slagging anybody off who has the opinion they would have taken the money. For the 27% of people who have said yes to this isn't me taking a jab at you or trying to slag you off or anything like that. It's not. But I do feel like when it comes to Engels, the minority speak the loudest. That isn't, once again, that's not a slagging, nothing like that. But I do think that there is a majority that speak very loudly. 73% of the viewers right now saying no. And I think that would, I honestly think that, and this is a very small sample size. It's a very, very small sample size. I've got less than 300 people voting so far. We're coming up to the 300 mark. But I think if you were to go and ask 60,000 Celtic fans, would you have taken that 17 million for Engels under the current circumstances of the Celtic transfer window on deadline day? I think you would see similar results to this. I think you'd see 60+% of people saying no. You know? So we have just passed, we're up to the 300 voters mark. 72% still saying no, they wouldn't have taken 17 million for Engels on deadline day. 28% saying yes. It is kind of going up and down, but it looks to be over that 70% mark for those who have voted in the live poll. Very interesting. Very interesting. I thought that would be the case. Look, I don't think that anybody has to be unanimous in agreeing that he's a world-class talent or anything like that, but to downplay his importance and the significance of the circumstances, I think is just very foolish, if you ask me. Aye, there you go. I'll let that poll keep running and we'll revisit it. Somebody saying Johnny Kenny off to Bolton on loan. Has there been an update in regards to that? I've not seen anything myself to suggest that Johnny Kenny is away to Bolton on loan. As far as I understand, Johnny Kenny remains a Celtic player. I am refreshing all the feeds, there's been no breaking Scottish Premiership news in the last... Since I've went live, actually. Like, the last piece of news on Sky's Scottish Premiership feed was at 14:07. I went live at 14:00. So, do it again for higher money, says Nathan. Okay, let's say hypothetically then, right? That's a good point. I'll do it again. Right, so let's keep talking about Engels. Let's keep the engagement going, shall we? So let me paint a picture. Nottingham Forest can't get Hayden Hackney, and they can't find anybody else, so they think that their easiest route forward is to go back in for Arne Engels, right? And they come back to Celtic at 6 o'clock tonight. By the way, the final results of that were 73% for no. So it's say 6 o'clock tonight, right? Forest offer 22 million for Engels. Yes or no? Keep in mind, this is purely hypothetical. If you're joining the stream late, Nottingham Forest have not made a £22 million bid. But if Forest were to offer £22 million, it wouldn't go any higher than that. If they were to come in and offer £22 million for Arne Engels tonight at 6 o'clock, are you saying yes or are you saying no? I'll leave my opinion till the results start rolling in. Thank you to Pierce Hamill for becoming a supporter of the channel. I appreciate it, mate. Remember, you can become a channel member using the link in the top line of the description. Thank you, Pierce. We can't afford to take the money now. If they still want him, they can have him in the summer. Like others are saying, if we knew what the fuck we were doing, it would have been a no-brainer. Spot on the money from Advent 7324 there. Spot on the money. In regards to that, still 6. It's swayed a little bit. We're at over the 200. We're nearly up to the same amount of votes that we had on the last poll. So just to reiterate the point here, make it clear. In the last poll, I said, would you have taken £17 million for Arne Engels? 73% of people said no. For £22 million, if a hypothetical bid was made, that has changed from 73 to 60%. So there has been a 13% swing. Some people are kind of being swayed by that money. But still 60% of people saying no, they wouldn't take that £22 million right now. And I still see people in the chat asking the question, what do you mean you would knock that back? What do you mean you would take 22 million? This isn't about the value of the player or the player himself anymore. It's about the circumstances. And that's what it's always been for me for Engels. It's not about the money. And Jackie, who's raising the point there, we don't need the money. What's wrong with the people voting yes? Look, people can vote yes if they like. It's an opinion-based question. But Jackie's spotting the money. This money does nothing for Celtic. I can't help but reiterate the point that we would not do anything with £22 million between 6 o'clock tonight and the end of the window. It would just be sitting there till the end of the year, aiding the bonus checks of Michael Nicholson and co. That's all it would do. That would be it. So, I'm still a no. I don't think there's any amount of money tonight that would make me say Arne Engels goes at any realistic amount of money. Of course, if somebody came in with a £40 million bid for Arne Engels, maybe I'd change my tune then. But for this region of money, 15 to 20 odd million pounds, I can't justify it. I want Celtic to have as good a squad as possible. I feel like I haven't made this clear enough, right? I'm going to end the poll there. It's ended at 61% of people still saying no, right? I can't help but make it clear. I want Celtic to do something in Europe. Will we do it? Probably not, if you're just being realistic about things. Celtic aren't going to be good enough to challenge Stuttgart right now, I don't think. But it's not an impossibility. There is still a good Martin O'Neill has showed already he can go to Feyenoord and win. He can go to Bologna with 11 men on the park and win. With 10 men in the park, still get a draw. We still have a solid chance. I think that chance decreases dramatically if you suddenly get rid of Arne Engels. That's what I think if we were out of Europe, I'd be a little bit different in my thinking. I think I would maybe go, But at this moment in time, as Jackie's just said in the chat, money does nothing. And we don't see any of it. See if they were paying out dividends to all Celtic supporters, or all season ticket holders. Oh, by the way, you're all getting a cut of this. See you later, Arne. But we don't get anything like that. You know, so I not for me. I wouldn't be accepting any bids. I'm not expecting Forest to come back in at this point in the window, but as I've already said, there is no guarantees around that. So, people saying Forest considering a third bid. I've not seen any reputable sources report with certainty that Forest are considering a third bid, but what I would say is I think that it would make sense for them to at least consider it. I mean, I think that's, fork found in kitchen. Of course they'll be considering a third bid. It's not like they've had the second rejected and they've just thrown his name in the bin. They will be considering it. I think that's very, a very easy headline to write. But whether they make that third bid or not, I wouldn't be able to speak with any real certainty on that. Thank you to John, and thank you to Gus Fitzsimmons. We nearly share a second name there, one letter off. Thank you to Gus. Oh, is that a wee void cat? That's so cute. I love voids. I love them. Gus, thank you for becoming a supporter of the channel. If that is your cat, that is very cute. Thank you for becoming a supporter. John, thank you for being a member for 17 months. And Ryan, we'd beat Stuttgart. I love that confidence. I mean, I've booked up. I've got my flights. I'll be there. And I hope we both can do. And I said it the other day in my video, I have a weird feeling of confidence about me that I maybe shouldn't have. But, we certainly can. I just don't think that we can say with certainty we will. But I think we can certainly give them a go. And that's why I don't want us to sell Engels. I want us to keep our team as strong as possible. Apparently Middlesbrough have told them to piss off though, David. I don't know if there's been any more updates. I've not seen Sky reporting that they've went back in, but apparently Middlesbrough have said no in relation to Hayden Hackney and Nottingham Forest. Middlesbrough would be daft to let him go. Jean-Philippe Mateta no longer going to AC Milan by the looks of it, by the way. Ninja, I love that. That's a great name. That's a great name, Gus. Love that. Hi to Ninja. I tell you, the minute that I move into my own house, whenever that may be, the first thing I'm doing is buying a void. Honestly, I think that's what I've no furniture. I just want a cat. First thing I'm doing. Right, let's keep rolling on, shall we? Hopefully Celtic might take a look at Michael Noonan of Shamrock Rovers in the summer window. There is some amount of talk at him at the moment in Ireland just now. German clubs looking at him. He is one of those names that in the summer I think you're definitely go and explore it if you want. Just right now, obviously, not anywhere near a priority for Celtic, but his name is doing the rounds right now, Michael Noonan, to the point where I think that maybe it's just a bit pie in the sky for Celtic, to be quite honest. But a lot of people giving their valuations for Engels. Some people saying they would take 22, some people saying 35. I mean, Whiskey Mikey, who's certainly been on the whiskey, no, I'm joking, says we'll be worth 30 million in the summer after the World Cup. I mean, I like that confidence, and that's what I mean. Listen, there's no rush to jump in. Should we jump into bed for the first offer? Should we jump in with the first suitor because a wee bit of pressure's on? This is what I kind of don't understand about the whole Arne Engels thing. Is I get that some people might not like him, but does it mean you just accept the first bid that comes his way? We've talked about how bad Celtic are at negotiating and all the rest of it. I think it's also pretty bad to just accept the first offer for somebody. I don't know. Listen, maybe I'm just a big Engels fan and I want him to stay. Eddie, thank you for becoming a supporter of the channel, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you. Is James Wilson going to Arsenal then? Because that is wild. Came from nowhere, that. What route am I taking to Stuttgart? We're flying direct from Manchester to Stuttgart, and then the way back we need to go Stuttgart to Hamburg and then Hamburg to Manchester. So not the worst actually. I think it's actually quite good, and we paid a good price for it as well. We didn't get too ripped off. Even though these want a fun story, right? Story time, because these streams it's nice to mix in a bit of fun as well, so we're not just boring ourselves with the same transfer rumours. So I was in charge of booking the flights, right? and I had it all ready. I had it all loaded during the draw the other day. This is, by the way, hand in heart, true story here. I nearly gubbed it for us all. So as the draw was happening, I had it on screen and we were like, if we get Stuttgart, we're obviously gone. If we get Ferencvaros, we're not. And as they're starting to draw the teams, I think to myself, I should start filling out the details here rather. Because all I had was like the actual flights in front of me. I didn't actually start filling in details. I was like, the quicker I press book now, the cheaper we'll get it. So I start filling in the details. And whilst I'm doing that, I hear, one of the teams getting drawn. I can't remember if it was Celtic first or whoever it was. But I remember somebody getting drawn. And I went away again to start typing in. The next thing I know, I see Ferencvaros come out. So I start telling all the boys, it doesn't matter. Ferencvaros, it's fine, it's gubbed. And I close off all my tabs and all the rest of it. And everybody else, Kieran Auld and all that, they're watching on a delay. So they give up and they stop watching. We all stop watching. I go down the stairs to make my lunch, not realising that we've drawn Stuttgart. And about 8 minutes later, Kieran Auld puts a screenshot, and I could find the screenshot, but I can't bother scrolling, saying, Ryan, are you fucking taking the piss? And I was like, what? And he sent the screenshot of Celtic putting up the post that we'll play Stuttgart. So I had to rush back onto the PC, load up the tabs, and luckily the flights had only risen by 18 quid. So we only paid 18 more than what we should have paid if I booked it at that moment in time. So it wasn't a complete disaster, but I switched off for a moment and I was convinced I saw Celtic getting drawn with Ferencvaros. And I managed to convince everybody else the same. So I done us out of £18. £18 each, so I done us out of a combined total of, 4 of us gone, about 60 odd quid or something. But aye. People keep saying about Forest are coming back with a bid of in excess of £20 million. I've yet to see anything reputable suggest that. I've got every sort of refreshable thing on screen: Twitter, Sky Sports, Celtic News Now, and all the rest of it. Celtic News Now, and I'm not seeing anything to suggest that there's definitely. Team Talk put up a tweet, Graham Bailey, saying that they're considering a third bid. I'm telling you right now, that is Team Talk, by the way, not a very great source, right? So first and foremost, this is what people are referring to. I'll bring it up on screen. This is, and listen, I'm not saying that they won't come back in with a third, right? I'm not saying that they won't come back in with a third, right? But this story here that Team Talk have published about Forest considering a third bid, that's just common sense. They've wrote this knowing that there's a chance they'll come in with a third bid. There's nothing in this article that says that they're definitely coming in with a third bid right now. As I said earlier, about 5-10 minutes ago, if you think that they've just ripped up his name and threw it in the bin because we've rejected a second bid, you're off your nut. But there's nothing to suggest right now they're definitely coming back in with a third bid. Of course they'll be considering it. They'll be considering all their options. They'll be considering bidding again for Hayden Hackney. They'll be considering other central midfielders. But until there's something concrete to say that there's a third bid coming in, right now, that's all we really have to work with. So the talk of the afternoon stream has certainly been more in regards to Arne Engels than any of the incomings. Just to clarify, Celtic haven't announced any of their signings right now. Ryan118, not a good source because Ryan118 said so. Absolutely, I've been doing this a long time and I've yet to see Team Talk knock it out the park. Team Talk is the same publication that Fraser Fletcher reports for. Fraser Fletcher writes reports to wind Celtic fans up. Fraser Fletcher, I have never seen get a story right with Celtic in my life. So until I see Fraser Fletcher get a story right, I am never going to sit here and say that Team Talk is a credible source. There are so many of these online publications out there. It's like Football Insider. They're just fucking nonsense. Until you see it come from someone credible, just hold your pish. Simple as that. Anyway, let's keep going. As I said, we'll stay live till around 4 o'clock for this afternoon stream. Anything else on a centre half? No, not right now. Of course, the latest reports were that Celtic were in contact with Manchester United over Tyler Fredrickson due to an ill-timed injury. That deal is now, or that potential deal is no longer something that Celtic won't be in consideration about. There has been reports coming out from Frankfurt that Amenda is no longer an option for Celtic in this window. So no Amenda, and in that same vein, it seems the same with Jamie Lawrence. So there is no centre-halves on the table right now. There is no centre-halves on the table right now for Celtic, and I don't think there'll be any whilst I'm live till 4 o'clock. I think that's something that we'll probably have to discuss in the evening stream when I'm live later on tonight. Kieran McLeish raising it, but I will be live, Adam. Yep, I'll be live. I've not got a definite start time yet, but I'll be live for the last 2 hours at least. Whether I start at 8 or 9 is still up for debate. So, well, I'll clarify that later, and you'll see it on the channel page. Remember, just turn your notifications on and you'll know. At 9 million profit on Engels, guys. Think about that. After every howler he's put on the past 2 seasons, we were lucky enough for Adam he did it. We got the bid from Swansea, and once again, I get that, I understand it, but what does that £9 million profit do for us and for this Celtic team? It's not exactly going to kick the players on. If anything, it's going to hold them back because they've lost a player in that team and we won't replace them. That £9 million does nothing. If we can't spend, a few £1 million on wingers this window, £9 million profit means nothing. I'm not caring about the Celtic bank books or the bank balances. I don't care about the end of financial year reports. I care about this team. And Engels is a pivotal part of this team right now. He's part of the midfield three, the best midfield three, which is Engels, McGregor and Nygren. You take him out and you're suddenly bringing in Hatate, who's not looked arsed all season. Not for me, thank you. It's not Pep saying this, by the way. I've seen a few people saying that. It's good old-fashioned water. Thank you for the donation. Hands up for the Panther. Saying, if Engels goes to Forest, he's a fool. What kind of idiot goes from Celtic to Nottingham Forest? Shit club, shit manager. EPL is overrated now. I mean, I listen, Forest are a big club, to be fair to them. 2-time European Cup winners. Massive support. Big history. They are a good club. To a certain extent. They're not Celtic, but this is just a modern game. I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying, hands up for the Panther. Absolutely. Like, I hate this world in which players move from Celtic to clubs like that, but the fact of the matter is they can offer double the wages, they can offer the Premier League football, they do have a legitimate chance of winning the Europa League this year, probably more a legitimate chance than what Celtic currently do, but they are in a relegation fight. They do have Sean Dyche as their manager, who does deserve respect, by the way, because he's a quality manager, to some. Depends on what you like. But a respected manager. Look, I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying, but it's just sadly where we are. Hands up for the Panther. Also, thank you to Celtic Champions for the £2 saying, donating to spend more than Celtic today. Shambles. There you go. Well done. Well done to everybody who's donated, by the way, because they've all overtaken Celtic in this transfer window for money spent. So thank you. And thank you to all the channel members who over the past few months have spent more money here than what Celtic could ever dream in spending in a transfer window. Bailey is a huge Arne Engels fan, talking about channel members, saying that Engels starts almost every game, doesn't want to leave. Who does it benefit? At this point, nobody. And I agree with that. I don't think it benefits anybody right now. Unless you're an avid fan of the Celtic bank account, it doesn't benefit anybody, to be quite honest. Okay, Kenny to Bolton seems on, according to the Irish press, says Aaron. So I'll try and see if we can find that story. If I just switch over to Twitter very quickly and see if I can find anything. Johnny Kenny looks as though he could be off after what has been a struggle. Let me see if I can find this story for us. That would be the first sort of breaking news this stream, wouldn't it? Johnny Kenny. Anybody got a link to any story about Johnny Kenny? Okay, here we go. I found one. Let's go over to Celts Arc here. Shout out to them. I'm looking to see if there's any. Celtic striker Johnny Kenny set to make a move to Bolton Wanderers, expected to be a loan. There is no confirmation if that will include any sort of. Aha, here we go. So here's the tweet here. It's from David Snide, I believe, over on Twitter. So let's go and have a wee look at that, shall we? So David Snide, who is part of the 4-2 in Ireland, Irish journalist, is reporting that there is loan moves on the table for 3 Irishmen, and one of them being Johnny Kenny from Bolton from Celtic. So that seems to be in the works just now, about Johnny Kenny. And that's actually, that tweet was as of 2:13 PM, so there's obviously some movement happening on that now. So Johnny Kenny could be leaving Celtic in this window, which has to happen. He needs to be going out and playing football somewhere. So expect possible movement in relation to Johnny Kenny. Not needed. Obviously using one of the spots as well in that Europa League squad. We'll talk about this tomorrow when I do the squad overlook and I get the squad depth chart out and stuff like that. But he has taken up a place in that squad, which you would assume Thomas Chavanchara will take. And I think it would just be a good move for all parties. Like, he's struggled, he's clearly not at the quality to play for Celtic, Johnny Kenny. And if he's ever to be that quality, which I have my doubts he will, he does need to be playing regular football. Somewhere Bolton would be an ideal location for that. But Johnny Kenny seems to be on the move, so that's one of the only sort of breaking stories that we have right now on this stream as things stand. But of course I will keep my eye out to see if anything else happens. So that's Johnny Kenny. Adam donated $1.99 saying stand up if you hate the board. I hate you, make me having to stand up in this fucking loft. Is that enough? That was more of a fucking moment's applause. It was like somebody's died. Right, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Connor, as well, for the donation, saying, alright, Ryan, would you take Ethan Pinnock for centre-half? I hear there is movement surrounding Ethan Pinnock today. Honestly, would be far worse options out there. I think Ethan Pinnock's an alright player. I think when you consider our situation, it would definitely be a good signing. However, Crystal Palace seems to be in for Ethan Pinnock. In regards to fees and such, I don't know if there's anything being mentioned and how expensive that would be, but he's got to favour a move that keeps him in London over moving to Celtic. If he's moving from Brentford to Crystal Palace, I'm pretty sure that there's pretty much a done deal, to be quite honest with you. So, you know what, as I said, would be a good signing, would help us to the end of the season, but has a move elsewhere. But thank you for the donation. Aaron's saying I'd crawl through broken glass for Pinnock. That's one way to put it. Stood up in the bus and joined in the chat, it says Bailey. Love that. What type of membership is it for FM streams? 118 Club, RJ6. 118 Club. Quinny saying I'd love Pinnock. Yeah, it'd be a great signing. As I say, it would be a brilliant signing. He would obviously become one of our best centre halves automatically, if not our best centre half automatically if he's signed. But as I said, just no chance of that if he's getting a move to Crystal Palace. That's the kind of thing that you would like Celtic to go and at least test. Like, you know, if there's talk of a move out there, and I'm assuming that it's not for a lot of money. Can I see anything about a fee? Ethan Pinnock. And I know there's no point in wasting too much time on this because, you know, currently valued at around £4 million. The move to Crystal Palace doesn't seem like it's going to be a lot of money. He's only got 18 months left on his contract at Brentford. You know, just to be, you know, kind of honest about things, why don't Celtic at least phone and say what's the situation? Would you be interested in the move? But they don't have the know-how to do that, do they? They just don't. So, and that's not me saying that Ethan Pinnock would be fucking the best signing we could make this window, but it would be better than what we're being linked with in the situation we find ourselves in right now, where there looks to be no centre-halves coming in. Thank you to Aaron, by the way, for being a member for 40 months. Aaron or Aaron, not sure. It's always hard when you're not speaking to the person. So thank you for the 14-month membership. Appreciate that, mate. Rumours that the board are looking to sign Thai centre forward. Fuck that. Be a great signing. I'm waiting for Vijay Triday. I don't know why we've not went for him in this window. Don't know why. Ryan, in regards to Mavuka, how do you know it's only a cheap signing? Martin O'Neill could have spoke directly and liked the personality and desire of the individual, and maybe he has. And if he has, then fair play. Who am I to question Martin O'Neill's assessment of the player? But I know that I can make my own assessment. I think we're all perfectly entitled to do that. A point that I seen brought up very early in this stream, and I wish I could credit them for it. I think it was before I started. I think somebody raised this as it was still in the kind of opening lobby. If Martin O'Neill has already thrown out numerous targets, how bad were they targets if we've settled on Joel Mavuka? Because let's be real, Martin O'Neill won't be looking at this boy and going, what a player. Let's just be real about it. What indication is there to say that? Nothing. So, I don't know what it is. As I said, I would never question Martin O'Neill's assessment of him. But I can make my own assessment, and my own assessment is that. I just don't think he looks that good enough. Fucking no one to be announced. Yep. That's it. That's the patter. Someone has asked for £3 million and £1 a week to wait till Dermot gets off the course. Yep. Wonder what course it is. Wonder if it's his mates. They gave 20 million. You remember when Celtic used to sign big names on loan to try and make up to the fans for for the shit show we've had to watch? I would love us to just sign anybody that gets me excited, no matter the circumstances at this point. But I'm failing to be excited to be quite honest. How much do you think Bournemouth would ask for Araujo in the summer? Don't think it'll happen, but we need to explore getting him in a permanent. I agree. I think we need to explore that. In terms of how much Bournemouth will want, I don't think I could say with any certainty, especially because they spent I think they spent £11 million on him. Look, if you're getting excited about Julian Araujo, this is all I'll say. I think the only way we sign him permanently is if Alistair Johnston were to leave, and I don't see Johnston leaving in the summer unless he has a magnificent World Cup. Just because of the injuries and stuff, I think that teams will be a bit kind of laid back and maybe approaching for Alistair Johnston this window coming. I think the only way we sign him permanently is if Johnston goes. I think Bournemouth will want a lot of money. So that's my early assessment of that situation. Can't speak of too much with too much certainty on that because we don't really know the ins and outs of the potential deal at hand, so we'll wait and see. Pothole repairs happening outside Lightburn, so I reckon that's holding up the medicals. Good thinking. Is it not Ross Hall that do the medicals? Probably potholes there as well. Lightburn, my god. Don't think I've ever been in Lightburn Hospital, you know that, despite going to school right beside it. Surely let Kenny go to someone in the Premiership, not Rangers or Hearts, obviously, but maybe he'd do us a favour in the run-in. It's easy to say that, Danny, but I mean, does anybody want him? Probably not. And if they did, I think we would have heard about it by now. So it's not like you can just offload somebody and say, here, take them. Like, you need there to be mutual interest, and I just don't think there is any within the Scottish Premiership because he's not exactly lit it up for Celtic. Thank you to Dan the Man for the $2. Thoughts on salad cream? I don't mind salad cream. It's never a go-to for me. I wouldn't say no to it though. I very rarely have it, but I don't mind it. Thank you for the donation. Username that I'm not even going to bother trying to give daytime is saying, if we were a proper club, we'd sign Araujo no matter what. Unfortunately, we have literally zero ambition, and we'll be going into next season with Ralston starting and Donovan as backup. Doesn't sound too far off the mark, to be quite honest. When you consider how much we'd pay for an unknown fullback, I'd rather we paid a bit extra for a guy we know is decent. I think we all agree with that. Sadly, there's a room of shirts and ties that just don't agree with that, which is the sad fact of the matter that we're in. We just refuse to spend money. No movement at all in the Scottish Premiership in the past hour, bar at Falkirk, who have signed Ben Broggio from Aston Villa. He's signed on a long-term deal. Seems like a pretty decent signing for Falkirk, to be fair. He's been quite highly rated, that lad. I'm sure Alistair, who's an Aston Villa fan, is in here, has maybe heard of him. But nothing in regards to Celtic. We are still, like, the fact that we've not even announced one of these boys yet. I feel like they know I'm live. I feel like I'm going to go off at 4 o'clock or whatever, and at 4:05, bang, we're going to get the double announcement of Mavuka and Adamu. I could see it. They know I'm live and they want to wind me up. Thank you for the donation again, Adam, saying, Doris, where's the salad? There's the salad. Bloody love Doris. Rest in power, Doris. What a legend. Keep your points, keep your questions rolling in. We are approaching the kind of last half hour or so of this stream. I'll be live, as I said, until 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then we'll be live again tonight. I'll let you all go away, get your dinner, enjoy yourselves, so we can welcome in the hard workers this evening. Those in the offices. Not saying that none of you are hard workers. Not accusing people of being slackers in here, of course not. Any special guests on these streams today? I mean, if you want them, you know, could try and maybe bring somebody in. The thing is, with the software I use, it's not very user friendly in regards to bringing on guests. But I can maybe reach out. If you're fed up of hearing me talk. Get Ola Solbakken signed. I wanted us to sign him 2 years ago. Christ, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. Funnily enough, Ola Solbakken is still the placeholder in my Celtic Transfer Talk graphic. So every time I go to edit a Celtic Transfer Talk and I go to edit the graphic, it's always Ola Solbakken's stats that are on screen. So I'm reminded of Ola Solbakken quite frequently, actually, but not heard his name linked with Celtic in any capacity in a long time. What has he been up to in the last couple of years, Ola Solbakken? Is he still, is he any good? Is it Nordsjælland, new arrival? No, did he only sign for them this season? He did. Not actually been all that good for Nordsjælland. Only got 4 goals so far this season. Yeah, he's not been... Ola Solbakken's stats aren't actually that great. You know that? Like, I'm looking at him now. That of course, the move to Roma was just an absolute flop, and then he stunk up the gaff at Olympiacos. I didn't know he went to Japan. Done nothing. He's had a terrible few years, also back in. Terrible few years. Thank you, Ewan, for the donation, mate. How are you doing? He says, hi, Ryan. How are you? Don't think we'll announce the 2, maybe plus 1 signings till later on tonight. I agree with that. And do you think that Jericho will be back in WWE soon? I do. I think he will be. I'm gutted he wasn't at the Rumble, even though just for the theme pop. That was all. I don't really have much desire to watch a Jericho run, to be honest, but I do think he'll be back. And in regards to that, yeah, said it at the top of the stream, Ewan. I think that Celtic will wait to announce all these things later on so they can try and capitalise on this. Oh, look at us, we're making a lot of signings. Oh, we've kept it exciting. Have they fuck? So aye, simple as that for me. Still waiting on anything. David Buick has just put a message in the chat saying Celtic are delighted to announce that Anthony Ralston has signed a 2-year contract extension. Thank you, David. Good chuckle from that there. Wouldn't be shocked. Wouldn't put it past him. Thank you to Shay as well for the 199. How you doing, mate? Saying top 5 pints on draft. Oh, I hate getting asked these questions. Do you know what's up there after the week? You know, I think I got asked this in one of the last streams about what like my favourite pints are on draft, and one that is a lovely pint, and the only place that I know of in Glasgow that does it is the Grosvenor. Lovenbräu, German, beautiful. That's up there for me. I love a Lovenbräu, so I'd put that up there. Lovenbräu, Tennent's is there for me. I don't care. I think Peretti is up there, so there's 3 straight away. Peretti, this is no particular order. Tennent's, Peretti, Lovenbräu. And then the 2 beyond that, if we're counting Guinness, I'm putting Guinness in there. And for a 5th, what do I go with for a 5th? What do I go with for a 5th? I don't know. Probably another German beer of some sort. I don't like Jubel. I'm not a Jubel fan. Jubel ban? I was about to say Jubel fan. I'm not a Jubel fan. I don't like fruity beers. I don't like beers. I just like lager, mate. I just like lager. Never had a Nookie Brown Ale on draft. Only had a bottle. I don't know what my 5th is. I'll need to come back to that. But those are 4 there for you. I hope that's good enough to justify your 199 donation. No ciders. Absolutely no ciders. Ciders wank. Strata Pramen's mints. Don't like it. Thank you to Whiskey Mikey for the donation, saying if you can compare Arne Engels to any Celtic player in this century, who is he most like and why? I called him Celtic Marmite last night. So I think you need to find somebody who's Marmite in the eyes of the Celtic support. You either loved them or you hated them. They were hot and cold. Do you know who's a good answer? And maybe this, I don't think that they're nothing. If you're just looking for a comparison in terms of the opinion, Georgios Samaras. People loved him or they hated him. I loved him personally. Samaras is one of my favourite Celtic players of all time. I love the guy and I will never hear a bad word about him. And if you try, I'll have you. Poloner's a great shout, by the way. Hofbrau, great shout as well. And Cham is a great shout, by the way, from Aaron. That is a great shout. And Cham is probably even more so. I'm just thinking of players that, you know, that are so hard to evaluate because of the inconsistencies and the ups and the downs, which is why Samaras came to mind for me. But I think Cham is pretty spot on the money. You know, I'd maybe say that's up there. A lot of shouts about pints in there. So many people getting their pints in. This is the point of the stream we've reached. I love it. Erdinger, Madri. I do like a Madri, but it is just Carlin, isn't it? Like, it's made in the same fact. Well, it's much better than Carlin, but it is just a ploy to fool you. Saul. Never been a Saul guy. Did he do Saul on draft? I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. Jubal, Poloner, Asahi. I've only had 1 pint of Asahi in my life, and I wasn't massively impressed by it. Budvar, decent shout. Grosh. Oh, Grosh is a good shout. I like a Grosh. Not had one in ages though. Some great. So we're getting some comparisons to Arne Engels after that donation, and we're seeing a lot of different ones. Zarafsky, Venegur of Hesselink, and Cham again. Nigrin, Effie Ambrose, Neil Lennon. I wouldn't say Neil Lennon. Evander Snow, Crosas, Landry Nguemo, Christie, Armstrong. A lot of Chris Commons. A lot of different suggestions for players that you could put in line with Arne Engels, to be honest. I think Cham is a pretty good, decent shout. Aye. God, so many names and pints coming through. You're going to make me choking for a pint, everybody. Never had a pint of Superbock, had a bottle of it, but I've heard pints are lovely, so I've still to try one. Glad you enjoyed Samaras as much as me, Rob. Thank you. Glad someone out there loved them. Sorrow, oh god, that's a bit insulting to Engels to compare him with Sorrow. I miss Samaras every day, Jackie. Every single day. It's just not fair. To be given somebody like that and then have them taken away from you is just cruel. It's criminal. It's disgusting, actually, is what it is. So, yeah, we're approaching the last 35 minutes of the stream. There hasn't been anything breaking apart from there's a story on the Nottinghamshire Live page of Arne Engels and the latest. So are they just say they're just citing Team Talk. So I've been there before. Nottinghamshire Live reporting about Arne Engels and potentially a third transfer offer coming in, but it is off the back of that Team Talk piece that we spoke about, literally 10-20 minutes ago or something. So not much else to talk about in regards to that. I just want Celtic to at least announce one of these players. Can we get an indication of contract length, transfer fee, anything at all? I would just like something for us to at least, sink our teeth into almost in this window. And it's just, I cannot believe it that we're here. You think about this month. As I said, I can't wait for it to be done. When you think about this month, oh my god. Oh, it's just been absolutely horrendous. A lot of shouts still coming in about, players that we can compare Engels to. Stefan Johansson, not a terrible shout from David. Żurawski, Turnbull, once again, not a terrible shout. Christie, not a terrible shout. Kundai Benyu, wonder what he's up to nowadays. Struggling to be a professional footballer, I think. Anyone thinking Motherwell is going to sell their best striker halfway through the season must be deluded. I agree with that, but there's obviously a price that would test their resolve. Motherwell aren't exactly blessed with cash. It's not coming out their ears, and I think that Celtic could have certainly made a right good go of it if they chose to, and they clearly aren't choosing to. So that's why I've kind of found myself in a position where I don't want to waste too much energy talking about it because I don't like the state of my hair there. Do you see that? Jesus, I don't think there's much point in wasting breath on it because there's been nothing. It's just been fans wanting them. But aye. Are we aware it's deadline day? Are they on a 4-hour lunch break? It looks like it. It looks bloody like it. Like, what is happening? I wish that I could have paid whoever, I don't know what company's in charge of the security cameras at Celtic Park, right? But I wish that I could have paid them to give us a live feed of the Celtic boardroom right now. Because I need to know, are they in there playing fucking Twister or something? Are they in there playing fucking Connect 4? Like, what are they doing? Because this has been an absolute mess. There's news on Felix Horn-Meyer, who we were linked with. The Daily Record have posted an article in the last minute, a player that we were linked with earlier in the window. Let's have a look at that. Thank you to Connor for becoming a supporter of the channel. I appreciate that, mate. A move for brand player Felix Horn-Meyer has been ruled out. Not that there's been much talk about this over the last couple of days, but the brand chief executive, Per-Ove Ludvigsson, has spoken in regards to that, and after he was linked with Celtic. So if I bring this up on screen for you now, thank you to Connor for becoming a member of the 118 Club. On top of becoming a supporter, I appreciate that, mate. There will be no sale of Felix Horn-Meyer this window. He was heavily linked with Celtic throughout the transfer window after Brøndby were obviously interested as well. A bid was apparently knocked back of around £2.8 million, but the sporting director / chief has said he won't be going anywhere right now after crunch talks with the brand hierarchy. This was his exact words. Basically, transfers are not something we comment on, but we can confirm that there has been a lot of interest in Felix. His situation has been discussed at board level. We have concluded we will not be selling him in this window. The reason is sporting, but it's also about the fact that we have sold 3 players this window already. This means it will be difficult to sell now. So he was brought up earlier in the window. I did say that I liked the look of Per-Ove Ludvigsson, but Celtic will not be getting him in this window. Neither it looked like it anyway. Even if he was available, it went very, very quiet in regards to him. Apparently some breaking news that James Wilson is set for a move to Tottenham after talks of both Arsenal and Tottenham looking at him. But yeah, There you go. That's the news in regards to Felix Hornmeyer. Maybe somebody that will pop back up in the summer. Maybe Celtic will be linked with him again, but that's once again another player that has been ruled out off the back of Amanda, Lawrence as well, the two centre halves, and Fredrickson of Manchester United. That's one of the live stories that we have breaking as of this hour. That was via the Daily Record over the last 10 minutes. So that's that. Let's keep charging on with any points and questions and anything that you have to say for the last half hour of this stream. Keep in mind, for the 1,500 people we have watching, if you didn't understand me earlier or didn't hear me or you weren't here, I will be live again tonight for the closing of the window. So keep in mind, Ryan 118 still has a second shift to go this evening. I'm sure you're all delighted to hear that. 2 field medicals would be weirdly hilarious. It would sum up everything, wouldn't it? It would just sum up the whole situation around Celtic. It would be comical and also very depressing, to be honest. Chelsea have got over 10 centre halves in their books. Just go and get one. Aye, go and ask them for any of them. 4 years ago today, we pumped Rangers 3-0 at Celtic Park. Since then, the squad, style of play, recruitment and atmosphere have regressed despite the success. Yeah, I mean, literally cannot argue any of that. I mean, you consider that was, of course, and that's, 4 years ago, and a lot can change in 4 years, and a lot has changed at Celtic in the past 4 years. But, to think about what has happened is crazy. In regards to centre-halves linked with the club, no, there is none right now being linked with Celtic. There is none. The only ones that have been linked with us over the course of this window have now effectively been ruled out with moves to Celtic. So right now, Celtic are aiming towards signing a non-existent question mark centre-half. And God knows who that will be. If any, I'm starting to think we won't get one, and I hope I'm wrong on that. I really hope that we do, because we need it. As I said, imagine the window. Why am I putting this into the air? But I need to say it to illustrate my point and to get it through. Right? Imagine we went into the game at Pittodrie on Wednesday and Austin Trusty broke his leg, and I hope that doesn't happen. But imagine that happened. Where would we be? We'd be gubbed. We'd be absolutely gubbed. So we need a centre-half, and we need one now. Vickers is out to the end of the season. Mr. C saying, you've heard 272 names this window. 270 of them were baseless guesses by fans and press, and we've all existed in that space all month. And we will again in the summer. Guess, then rage about it. Yep, that's how these windows usually go. Sounds like it. Sky Sports reporting Forest are considering putting in a third bid. So now Sky Sports are reporting on it. Let me refresh my Sky Sports feed. There's the news about Bolton and Johnny Kenny. Sky Sports, Anthony Joseph has reported that they are nothing about Engels on my screen from Sky as of now. But in the last minute, there's been an update in regards to Johnny Kenny from Anthony Joseph, saying that Bolton are working on a deal to sign Johnny Kenny. Very interesting second point coming up here. I'll bring this up on screen for you. A number of clubs in England and Portugal have inquired about Johnny Kenny. Portugal, of all places. Bolton look to have missed out on their main striker target, Ryan Hardy, and now are moving on to other targets. They did try to sign Kenny in the summer, but Celtic rejected a £500,000 bid there. So it's understood that there's a few clubs interested across England and Portugal in striker Johnny Kenny this month. But it looks as though he'll be on the move. Johnny Kenny. God, what a depressing evening we have in store, eh? We'll talk about Johnny Kenny and Stephen Welsh leaving and we'll sign nobody. Watch this. It's just, I love scrolling through the Sky feed and seeing all these teams. Let me just read the first few teams that you see. Bolton, Birmingham, Hull, Forest, Bristol, West Ham. And then scroll down past this update. Huddersfield, Manchester United, Crystal Palace, Bristol, Sheffield United, Gillingham, Arsenal. All these clubs. News of some form, and then for us there's fucking bugger all. That's how boring it is here at Forest right now. Thank you for the donation again, Whiskey Mikey Legend, saying pick between taking Ange back or Martin O'Neill. You have to have one. I mean, let's be real, Ange. Obviously Ange. And that's not because, you've just got to consider the wider circumstances of, Martin O'Neill wants to retire. He doesn't want to be doing this. So if it was a case of end of the season, you can only pick one, pick Ange. I think it's a no-brainer. I know some people have the sentimental attachment to Martin O'Neill, and I prefer Martin O'Neill in terms of Celtic legacy and personality and all these different things. Like, I am a Martin O'Neill guy. I love Martin O'Neill. But if I was tasked with the decision in the summer of picking one or the other as the next permanent Celtic manager, it would be Ange Postecoglou. And I don't think that's a question to consider too much about. Right, apparently people still saying about Arne Engels and Sky reporting stuff to do with him. Let me see if I can go and find any Sky post. I need to see it to believe it. Okay. It's a video, right? Let me play it for us all. I can't obviously show you on screen, but I'll play it through my speakers and see if you can hear it.
About all day is Nottingham Forest's quest for a central midfielder. They had 2 bids turned down for Engels at Celtic, and I'm told they're considering putting in a 3rd bid for
there you
the
go.
Belgian midfielder. Now, that hasn't actually gone in yet, but still, he's very much their sort of top target when it comes to the sentiment.
So according to Sky, as I said, a more reputable source than Team Talk, Sky are reporting that Arne Engels will be subject to a 3rd bid, or at least Nottingham Forest are considering that 3rd bid at this moment in time. So a potential 3rd bid is coming. There has been bids for other central midfielders, stalled bids for other players. I believe one that's been brought up is Davide Fratesi and Fisayo Dele Bashiru. They are considering a 3rd bid for Arne Engels. As I said, I have this horrible sick feeling in my stomach as of last night that we could end up seeing him go, and I think it would be a bit disastrous. Listen, no point. We've got 23 minutes left of this stream. We'll cover it again later on, and we'll see by that next stream if there is a 3rd bid that comes in for Arne Engels. But Sky are reporting that. Thank you to Jack who tagged me in that on Twitter, by the way. Sky are reporting that a 3rd bid could be coming in. Do Augsburg have a sell-on clause for Engels? You would assume they would. I don't feel like clubs do business with in regards to young players anymore without sell-on clauses being a kind of not so much mandatory but standard part of the deal. You would assume if this 3rd bid comes in, I guess this is where you need to start talking Turkey. If this 3rd bid comes in, you would assume it's in excess of £20 million. So, knowing this information now, and now that we have different feelings, let's do another poll in the chat. Let's see if anybody's opinion has changed. Let's see, I think realistically they're going to come in with around 20 million, right? And that seems to be the number we're all voting. So let me pose the question to chat. I still say no. I don't think we can afford to take it, but I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Let's get some interaction on the way. If a 20 million bid does come in for Arne Engels tonight, would you be saying yes or no to it? Let me know your opinions. And we'll have a look over that. I have a horrible feeling he's going to end up going, man. And I don't know. And once again, I want this camera in the Celtic boardroom to tell me what the plan is. What's the contingency plan? What's the emergency situation? What players have we been looking at in preparation for Arne Engels leaving? Also, we need to consider this whole factor of, we can only, I believe, register 3 new players, right, for the Europa League. Who are the 3 that we register? Because if Arne Engels goes, we need to register another central midfielder. We need to. We cannot go into the Europa League with that central midfield core. We cannot do it. I feel like it's just going to give us no chance of progression. You need to obviously think about Araujo. You need to obviously think about Chavan Chara. You need to also think about these 2 new boys in Mavuka and Adamu that are potentially coming through the door. You've got to think about the centre half. We can't register all of these players. So what do we do? What happens? Very, very fucking mind-boggling, and then we'll see. In regards to the poll that I've posted the channel, if a 3rd bid comes in for Arne Engels, I mean, Nathan's saying, surely we have another midfielder lined up, surely. We need to pay big money, and the club aren't going to do it. Are they? 60% of voters, we have over 200 right now. Come on, we've got 1,500 people watching. Get yourself in the chat, vote in the poll, let me know your opinions. I want to get a an indication of how the majority of us are feeling right now. 60% of people still saying no in regards to that. Well, Simo boy. It doesn't necessarily work like that. You know, these players, you can shorten the amount of players you have, but you can only put in a certain amount of new players. I believe that's how it works. You can only put in 3 new names. So I'm not entirely clued up on it. Let me have a look. Let me see. Europa League playoff round registration rules. If I could type, that would help. Article 15, right. I'm on UEFA.com just now. Let's get a complete clarification of all this. Still 60 odd % of people saying that they wouldn't sell him for a £20 million bid. I'm trying to see what it says about squad. So much jargon. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's only 3 though. Yeah, 3. There we go. We have I'll read it out verbatim. The exact registration rules. Teams remaining in the Champions League, Europa League or Conference League are allowed to register a maximum of 3 new eligible players after the completion of the league phase and before the start of the knockout phase. Additionally, clubs participating in domestic championships that start and end the same calendar year are entitled to additional player registrations in certain cases. So, just to clarify, I was right. Teams can only add 3 new players. Doesn't matter how many players you lose in a window, doesn't matter how many players you unregister. In that 25-man squad, you're only allowed to have 3 new names. So we can't register Araujo, Chavanchara, Mavuka and Adamu, plus anybody else who comes in. Beyond that, we can only register 3 new players. That's why I'll say it again, we can't afford to let Engels go. He's part of a registered Europa League squad, which gives us our best chance of progression in the tournament. I just can't see a world in which we can justify getting rid of him. But, you know, people will have their opinions, and that's fair. But 3 new players is all you can register. Put it this way, if we sell Engels, the only our midfield 3 it's against Stuttgart in both legs is going to have to be McGregor, Hatate and Nygren. That's going to have to be the midfield 3. I don't necessarily feel good about that. But it could be worse. It could be far worse. 60%, I'm going to end the poll. 60% of people saying no, they will not take a £20 million bid. Are we progressing though, says Kieran. I guess you can look at it like that if you want, but I want to give us a chance. And I get that state of thinking, like, oh, are we going to beat Stuttgart? But when did we all become losers? You know, why did we all start thinking about losing? You know, I want to win. Martin O'Neill wants to win. And he wants to give himself the best chance of it. I agree with Dan though, the board won't care. They won't give a toss. We'll need to see what Arne Engels wants to do as well. He's, you know, probably finishing up training for the day at Lennoxtown with no idea about what's happening. You know, he's got a very, very big few hours ahead of him. And we'll wait and see. We do have a title to win, Bill Scotland, but we've also got another competition. The way I look at it is, like, I get this whole, like, prioritise on the league. I understand that, but we can look at it all. We should be looking at it all. Simple. We looked to do it all in 2003, didn't we? And obviously we ended up with nothing. But how many more chances are you going to get in the Europa League if you want to be a Champions League club? People begged for this. I don't want to be in the Champions League. I want to drop down. Nathan says McGregor, Hatate and Nygren isn't necessarily that bad an issue. The problem is our depth would be McCowan and Bernardo if anyone's injured. Yeah, I agree with that. I do. It's not terrible. I think it's terrible in the context of Hatate's season because he looks so unarsed. Is there a third bid? Oh shit. Wow. Okay, I did not. We've got breaking news. Wow. Big news. Big news. Yeah, we've got an update as of the last 35 seconds. Wow. Huge news. Huge news. I think this could be it. I think he could be off. Nottingham Forest have made a third bid for Arne Engels worth up to £25 million. 25 million. This is. I was meant to only be on till 4 o'clock. This is happening in the last 15 minutes of the stream. £25 million. Nottingham Forest have made a third bid for Arne Engels worth up to 25 million. Forest want to pay an initial £20 million up front, 5 million in add-on. Celtic, of course, rejected the first two bids. This is in Anthony Joseph alongside Anton Tolley. I'm calling him Tolley, yes. Wow. That is... Don't want to do this. Oh, we're so fucked. Oh. We're fucked, Garfield. £25 million. £25 million. He's off. He's fucking off. There's no chance he's staying now. That's it. It's Jehovah. It's Jehovah. I'm bursting for a piss. I've drank so much water on this stream. Chat is flying. People convinced he's away. People saying you can't turn that down. Can't turn that down. I don't want Engels to go. People saying they'll drive him and all that. We need to have a plan in place. This changes the whole complexion of deadline day. This is now... I've done this for 10 years, right? I've done so many of these deadline day streams. And I don't remember having one as much of a mess as this ever. And I've never, ever remembered one where, you know, now we have so many moving parts, and what do? We cannot let him go without replacing him. Is Nico Segur still on the phone? Like, can we get him? Can we go? This is the thing, right? Do you know what pisses me off more than anything? Like, I get it, everybody's like, we need to take it and all that, and you know what, cool, whatever, I'll come to that in a minute. It's a completely different situation, or a talking point, right? The one thing that I want to know is, what are the Celtic board planning on doing with this £20 million that is inevitably going to enter the Celtic bank account tonight? What are they going to do with it? And please, right, please, for the love of God, even if you are an Arne Engels hater, even if you don't like him, and even if you're fine with us taking this money, don't sit there and accept it when the Celtic board end the window without spending it. Like, you've got to voice your fucking discontent. You've got to make it clear that it's unacceptable the way we've conducted this window and the lack of planning that we've had going into deadline day. Like, you cannot sit there and celebrate a guy leaving without us spending this money back. And obviously, I'm not... Celtic might spend this money, who knows? But we are going to have £20 million harboured in the bank account and do nothing with it. And that isn't worth celebrating, in my eyes. I've never seen such a mix of opinions in one chat. I've got people shouting about rejecting it, turning it down. I've got people shouting about accepting it and making sure we take that money. Mark, I see you in the chat, mate. How you doing? Mark, cash positive. It's not even about cash positive at this point. We're talking about fucking winning the Powerball. This isn't just a slight ending the window in the green, is it? This is about Celtic ending the green in style. We're already £13 million up over the last two transfer windows. If we were to accept this, we are going to be £33 million up on the last two transfer windows. Then talk about the... Let's just say that Celtic sign Mavuka for £3 million, right? This is something that we've got to make clear right now, and this is why I'm like, it's not worth celebrating. Why are we celebrating it? Why? Because if we sign Mavuka and we sell Engels and get 20 million tonight, we will be £30 million up over the last two transfer windows with fuck all to show for it. That's where we are. We will be £30 million up. We made, sorry, I should probably caveat that by saying that it might be euros and stuff, and we don't have exact, you know, currency exchanges and whatnot. But it's roughly £30 million up. And what do we have to show for that? Loaning in Thomas Chavanchara, loaning in Junior Adamu, loaning in all these players that look... it's just... This is a shit show. There is nothing good about this. There is nothing. There's nothing good about this. As Jack just said in the chat, we don't need money. We need players. One last kick in the balls if he goes. Thank you to Jack for the £5 donation saying we can only sell if we can sign a replacement. Ask for James McAtee. Not a bad shout. However, we won't do anything and we can kiss any chance we have goodbye. Not a bad shout. And I think that should be one of the conditions. Like, it's almost as if you're playing Football Manager. Can only sign if replacement is found. Like, we need to add that condition on. Oh, this is a bombshell to end the stream on. We've been sitting here brewing with this, knowing it could happen. Thank you to Bill Scotland, 13 months of membership, saying it's tough to turn down, but 7 hours to replace him. TikTok. 7 hours to replace him. And where did we go? We've not been linked with enough central midfielders in the window with any real certainty to suggest that any of them are ready to come in. And once again, we were just talking about it before this news broke. We were just talking about it literally minutes before the news broke. Like, what happens in regards to this Europa League situation? What free players get registered? If we lose Engels, we're a man down. Thank you to Aiden for the $4.99 saying, don't understand how some fans are happy with this Engels sale. You're celebrating us becoming even weaker as a side as the board get richer. Crazy. I raise a glass to that, Aiden. That's my side of... Listen, as I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But what is this? What are we celebrating? Oh, we've got £20 million. To do fucking what? To do what? This is something we could have celebrated if we went out and signed, I don't know, Lennon Miller in the summer and maybe another central midfielder this window to prepare for the sale of Arne Engels. Just throwing out a random name. It didn't have to be Miller. Just using him as an example. This is just a totally fucking... This is a shit show all round. An absolute shit show. Thank you, Bailey, for the membership of 14 months. Tremendous loyalty, saying we'd be daft to accept this. We will not replace him. We're kissing any trophies away here. £25 initial minimum, plus add-ons is needed in my opinion. Once again, I agree. But can you say that with any real certainty, Kieran? Listen, it's right enough they'll be richer, but with change, that money will be reinvested in the summer. Are we going to get change? Is there any certainty of change? I mean, we got 30 million for Matt O'Reilly, and what did we do with that? We didn't spend that. Christ, we're still yet to spend the fucking Frimpong sell-on fee. What does Money in the Bank do for us? It does nothing. We have a team that's second in the table, points behind Hearts, bobbling on and struggling away. This is something that I would have been laughing about if we were fucking prepared, and we're just not. Don't think he's impactful enough to be a season-deciding loss, says Jesus Mary and Jota. What a username, by the way. I mean, fair play if you don't. But it's just about weakening the squad. It's not that he himself... I said this last night in my stream. It's not as if he is the glue that holds us together. It's not as if he's Celtic's standout player. It's not as if... he is the end-all be-all of this Celtic team. But it is about making the team weaker and weaker. Like, we went into this window knowing that Celtic had to strengthen. So why now on deadline day are we fine with weakening? Like, that's what we're doing here. That's what's happening. And it's just... I'm just fucking deflated. I'm absolutely deflated. Because I just can't see a world in which Celtic reject this. I don't know when we'll hear about it. I think Arne Engels will know that Premier League money's waiting for him there as well, and there's still European football to be played with Nottingham Forest. I think it's, on paper, for him, a decent move. It's not a million miles away either. He only has to drive down the fucking M6. Like... Aye. Thank you, Megan, for the donation, saying, I would happily sell Engels if Silas, Anderson or Mulligan are ready to come in and replace him. I'd also happily see the back of Hatate. I mean, listen, the Hatate point is something that I would normally agree with, but I'm going to stay consistent. we can't weaken at the minute, and if we got rid of Hatate and didn't replace him, that'd be the same as selling Engels. But I generally agree with your point. In regards to Silas Anderson or Mulligan, two names that have been floated about, two names that I'd be happy with. Do they offer guaranteed improvement? God knows. We need to wait and see. The thing is with Mulligan is I would be stunned if Hibs would part with him for any amount of money today, especially because they've just lost Kieran Bowie. So like how much are they going to be willing to weaken? They'll be in a position like us in regards to that. But they need to be on the phone to central midfielders agents right now. And whether that is Silas Anderson or Mulligan, as Megan has suggested, they are two fine names. I guess that, you're in that situation the same way we were with Arne Engels when we signed him. Whoever comes in, if we find a replacement, is going to be somebody that we don't, unless it's Mulligan, we don't know an awful lot about. And we're just going to have to trust the process. Mark saying that Forest must have players that they can include in the deal. Someone suggested James McEntee earlier. Let me head over to the Nottingham Forest squad. Let's see, is there anybody we can pick up in a swap? Thank you for the donation, Sean, saying selling Engels would be a fuck you to the fans. Seen a lot of people saying that, and I just feel like it's just a deflating sort of. It would just sum up everything, man. I feel empty. Midfielders, right? I mean, you've also got to keep in mind that some of these players are actually like critical. We're not going to get Elliot Anderson for talking sake, the £100 million player. Who of these players would we realistically get? What is James McEntee up to? Is he playing this season? Because get him in. Is he's only played 652 minutes. He played 14 games, 8 starts, which I guess is a little bit. Surely we can loan him until the end of the season. Go and get James McEntee, and we can play McGregor and Hatate or something, or McGregor and Bernardo as a double pivot. I don't know. I just do anything. Just do something. Like, oh no. This is a mess. This is like when you fucking you switch jobs in Football Manager and you've at the end of a window and you've got a shit squad. Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Oh my god. Thank you, David, for the donation. Oro Mangala, watch this space. Who the fuck is Oro Mangala? I don't know who that is. I'll need to watch the space though. Jackie, I give up to. I was only meant to do this first stream till 4. And what a bombshell we have to go off on the stream with. Ibrahim Sangari. Elijah Jussie names. Gibbs White. Did not just give him like £200,000 a week this summer. Oh, Jesus God almighty, man. But it's not the point. There's plenty of midfields out there better than Engels. Go and get one. We couldn't sign a player in 30 odd days. What makes you think we're going to sign one in 7 hours? Maybe I'm just a fucking hypochondriac or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm fucking blown out of proportion. But I've not seen any evidence over 2 combined transfer windows that Celtic are going to get somebody good in 7 hours. I just don't see it. Pardon me for being so negative. But I don't exactly have many fucking positives to go off. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and one thing we've probably not discussed actually, one thing I actually don't think I've brought up once. The English window closes at 7 PM. Remember that. The window closes at 7 PM. So we are just about to hit 4 o'clock now. Nottingham Forest only have 3 hours to get this deal done. They only have 3 hours. They've got between now and 7 PM. So Celtic can, make their life incredibly difficult. But this will have to happen quickly, and then on top of that, Celtic then have another 4 hours to go out and get a replacement. I don't know. It's not even so much. I don't want people thinking that I'm absolutely devastated that Arne Engels is away. Oh God, Arne. I'm just devastated about the circumstances it now causes. The ripple effect that this pushes on for our season. And that's what bothers me. It's not so much about Arne Engels. It's about the circumstances and the things, the ramifications that come from it. Thank you, Aidan, for the $4.99, mate. I appreciate it. Saying spent more money on the Ryan 118 chat than the Celtic board in this whole window. Brendan Rodgers is laughing at all the fans who blamed him right now. I tell you, Brendan, if you ever need anybody on your social media team over in Saudi Arabia, hit me up. No, I couldn't sell myself out for the Saudi money. I couldn't. But yeah. Thank you for the donation and thank you for spending more money on the Celtic board, Aidan. So, 7 PM deadline for Nottingham Forest to make this happen. Augsburg probably have a sell-on fee attached to it, so Celtic wouldn't see all the money anyway. Augsburg will be licking their lips and getting a little bit of money. I am fucking nervous for how this transfer window ends. I am nervous as shit for how this transfer window ends. Right, I said that this stream would only go on until 4 PM. And that we have now hit 4 PM. I didn't expect it to end on the absolute bombshell that it's ended on with this third bid coming in for Arne Engels, but so be it. I'll be back, in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. Thank you to Keane for the channel membership. Can't turn down that type of money for a player like Engels. A lot of different opinions. Lots of thoughts, lots of things to be said. Do you think we could piss about before rejecting and force him into a higher panic bid? Even then, I absolutely would still not sell him, but trying to think, maybe. As I said, time is of the essence for both teams, but especially for Nottingham Forest in that regard. I'll be back tonight. I'm going to head off. I'm going to go and get dinner and stuff like that sorted, and we have an evening stream, which... we might see Arne Engels leave Celtic, and we need to see what Celtic do in response. Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney, and the Celtic board have a lot of thinking to do tonight. Just to reiterate, Nottingham Forest have submitted a third bid worth £25 million for Arne Engels. The ball is now in our court. I'll be back tonight. Keep an eye out on the channel for the planned start time. I might... it's either going to be 8 or 9, but obviously with this window it's ending at 7. We don't know what happened with Engels. Just keep an eye on the channel. God, a lot to think about. Thank you, Adam, for the final donation there. God help us. See you later, fella. I'll see you all tonight, whoever joins me in that stream. Until then, try and keep your sanity and your wit about you. I know I'm certainly going to try. But take care.